Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Today's conversation is about how we shift from Web3 as an infrastructure to Web3 as a real and everyday utility driven by payments, stablecoins, and tokenization. I'm Camilo Molano, head of Builders Program Algorand Foundation, and I'm joined by Chase Merlin, head of product at Braille. Chase, thanks for being here. And to start, could you please introduce yourself and share a bit about your background?
Yeah, for sure. I'm Chase. I lead product at Braille. So I've been building products for a long time that help people be healthier and wealthier. I'd run a health tech business in Nashville in the late 20-teens. And after that, I got into crypto around 2020 during DeFi summer. And after watching a lot of the stablecoin kind of failures and experiences of last cycle, I started thinking a lot more about stablecoins, especially regulated stablecoin infrastructure, and then linked up with Ben, who had previously built Dwala and team and have been there since 2022.
That is a super interesting background, and you have an interesting mix between experience with product, experience as a founder, and right now leading the product development on Braille. And for anyone hearing about Braille for the first time, what does Braille do, and what are the problems that you are solving?
Yeah, so Braille's a stablecoin infrastructure company. We help businesses issue their own stablecoins and then have a unified API for converting between dollars and stables. So as all these business models move on-chain, we provide a simple API for on-ramping, off-ramping, custody, and issuing stablecoins. And we're live on 20 plus blockchains today and have a variety of fiat rails, so Wire, ACH, RTP, and adding more all the time.
And as you know, stablecoin liquidity is an important priority for the industry right now. And Braille clearly is an important enabler in that process. Based on your experience, what are the use cases and vertical adoption that you are seeing in 2026?
Yeah, I think the use case that most people are familiar with for stables is basically cross-border payments, right? Stablecoin sandwich. I think this is where stablecoins grew a lot starting in 2024. So you can send money around the world, right? It was a replacement for Swift, replacement for netting for fintechs, right? We can send money essentially in a couple minutes across the world for very low cost. I think though these days we're seeing even more use cases that I'm also excited about alongside cross-border payments. The biggest one is just businesses are now running their entire business really on top of stablecoins, right? Some people have talked about this as stablecoin accounts being the replacement for traditional FBO accounts. So if I think about a marketplace or an e-commerce business, we're now at the point where users will swipe credit cards, you'll settle into stablecoins. The merchant will then run their business out of the stable. They're paying other merchants, other suppliers, payroll. And as there's more and more supply in the system, businesses are now earning treasury revenue from the stablecoin that they can use to reinvest in their products. So you can use the revenue backing the stablecoin to subsidize fees, to do loyalty programs, all these kind of things. The stablecoin revenue is usually a new revenue source for these businesses that let them differentiate their products. There's also one other one that I think is interesting in the last year or so, which would be blockchain ecosystems themselves getting closer to stablecoin issuance. So if you look at what happened, how Ripple approached their stablecoin, if you look at how Hyperliquid approached their stablecoin, there's growing recognition among blockchains themselves to own more of the stablecoin economics. And so I see that as a trend that will continue, basically branded stablecoins at the ecosystem layer or like enshrine stablecoins in a very close project.
Awesome. And finally, we are seeing the kind of adoption that we start mentioning like 10 years ago, but this is the right timing for it. And now that the Algorand integration is live on Braille, offering instant finality, low fees, and scalability, what does that unlock for builders?
Yeah. So I think, we recently integrated Algorand And I think there's a few features of the chain that we're really excited about, and we're mostly dealing with payment businesses, right? Marketplaces, enterprises. So there's a few features there. I think one is, of course, instant finality. I think when you think about these settlement flows, the ability to close the risk window to avoid things like returns and reversals is really important. It's actually a really nice feature versus most chains. I think two, it is obviously scalability, right? If you think about real world businesses, we're still nowhere near. We're probably like 2 orders of magnitude away in terms of where we need to be in on-chain volume. And so excited about the just TPS, and also really, really like you'll need multiple blockchains to solve these issues. And then I think on the regulated features that Algorand has in the token program, basically things like freeze and clawback and these things. I mean, if you look at in the last 6 months, like really weekly, all these discussions are looking for stablecoins that go beyond just a denialist approach where you have more control. If you think about these businesses and moving over their entire stack, you need more control over, again, these edge cases, things like clawbacks, pause, all these kind of things, which are really important for real world use cases. So if you put all that together, I think we're really excited about Algorand. We're continuing to try to add more chains and give optionality to our customers.
Yeah, I totally agree with you because the blockchain infrastructure is important, but these kind of native features are a game changer when you are building some kind of use cases. And let's get practical for a minute. What is the number one challenge or mistake that you see things make when they are shipping their stablecoin payments? And what is the fix? Because I know that you interact with several companies and you are learning from their experience. So, what you can share with us regarding that? Maybe I can guess. User experience could be one of them.
Yeah. There's so many to this that could be. I think when you think about the happy path, or like a great example of a stablecoin payment, I mean, I can send money, like we can send money from, say, Mexico to Philippines in like 2 minutes for virtually nothing. Like the happy path experience is magical and it's really good. The challenge I see is more at scale. If you think about these businesses that are doing millions, billions, tens of billions per day, like you have to cover all of the edge cases of the program, and things have to be really tight. Like, so that 1% kind of case, the biggest thing I see now is usually to move from your real world business pre-stablecoin to post-stablecoin, you're working with like 5 to 10 vendors or more. It's a lot. So you need like a stablecoin issuance and orchestration provider like Braille. You would need a wallet provider. If you think about things like Para or Privy or Alchemy, you would need a transaction monitoring, things like Chainalysis. Now, the products are amazing in each category. Like it's very different today than like 2021. There's best-in-class products, but it's a lot to stitch these things together. So one of the big drivers for us this year will be better integrations with these other vendors in these categories, whether it's through Braille being integrated, us integrating them, or other flavors of partnerships. I think we're getting more to the point where you could provide sort of a stablecoin operating system and like one API that makes this easy versus trying to stitch together kind of all these vendors. I think it's something for like a small project or a crypto native project, it's a bit different, but as you get to scale with these businesses, it's just the layer of complexity is super high, and I think we can drive that down by the end of the year.
And maybe when we are starting building a project, we are optimistic. But once we start with the execution, we realize the bottlenecks, the friction, the problems that we face. And let's zoom out for a bit. ChatGPT made AI truly mainstream by converting a powerful technology in something instantly useful. In Web3, what do you think that is the missing piece that can make the same process for stablecoins and RWAs for them to go mainstream?
Yeah. I think we're at the point now where most of the UX is actually pretty solved in terms of like chain abstraction, right? Wallet abstraction, gas fee abstraction, all this kind of stuff with stablecoins in the background. To me, the two remaining areas again are scalability. Like again, if we're thinking about, right, Visa on chain, Amazon on chain, which is where we're going, like everything will be on chain. We're quite a ways away. We're probably 100x off or more. So scalability is still, I think, the biggest one there. There's the different approaches, bleeding edge chains, other off-chain stuff. The second one is privacy. I think privacy is still underappreciated, still not talked about enough. Not like anonymity, but more like selective real privacy. So if you think about things like payroll or supplier payments, or if you think about collateral positions on an exchange, it's just it's wild to me. Like, you're not going to get these things without privacy. So I feel like at sort of the foundational level, I think we really do mostly have the UX. Like outside of these pieces, it's more we need more TPS, and I think we need selective privacy in a way that's not too expensive, but like it won't be private for everything, but for many things you need to be able to turn on privacy easily.
The privacy point is super interesting, and I know that that is a key priority for the industry right now. Because at the beginning we want that everything was public, but we realized that that is no longer the right approach. And looking at what you are building next, what's coming up on Braille's roadmap that you are most excited about in terms of driving broader adoption and usage?
Yeah, I mean, when we come back to our strategy, we're really just trying to make it as easy as possible to use stablecoins and reduce friction. So later this year, I mean, one, I'm really excited to offer more coverage throughout, outside the US. We've really started with the US in terms of our licensing, but expanding to other jurisdictions. We'll have a lot more coming on that later this year. The other piece would be, I've been really excited with how we've bundled a lot of these banking products, things like virtual accounts or ACH debits on all these things, really low cost, and made them very seamless with stablecoins. And we'll have some more rails coming like that, always adding more vendors online. We're really trying to give optionality. We'll continue to add more chains, more payment methods, and really provide, I think, market-leading pricing so that we can get these in the hands of every business.
This is my favorite part because it's regarding the roadmap and the alphas, and those are the kind of things that can help you to attract more users and create the adoption that we are expecting. To close and looking ahead, as we bridge the gap between institutional adoption and Web3 innovation, if you had to bet in one team that can drive the broader adoption in the next 18 to 24 months, what will it be and why?
I think the biggest pieces, again, will be scalability and privacy. But in terms of what we'll actually see in the market, I mean, crypto natives don't like when I say this, but I feel like everything that's basically happened here has been a pilot for basically banks adopting stablecoins. Once banks adopt stablecoins, we'll get basically the 50x, 100x. Like, stablecoins will become pervasive, not only the adoption on banks themselves, but also it will basically make stablecoins a default for basically every business, basically every user. And so we are still missing some pieces, though. Again, scalability, privacy, like we continue to mature in some of these areas. I think also later, even before the bank motion, we're going to be some major brands launching their own stablecoins. We already have, really, but even more so. I think this is the year, definitely by next year, we'll start to see. We're getting to the point where sort of like top 10 businesses in the world will have their own stablecoin. And then I think not long after, you'll have banks basically running their systems on stables. I think at that point, we've basically had like pervasive usage. So I think we're probably 2 to 3 years away. I think it's crazy, though, thinking back to, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, it seemed like impossible. And now I think we're getting close.
So we need to be ready for the stablecoin summer, if we can call it in that way. Amazing. Chase, I really enjoy our conversation, and I hope that all the insights that you share with all the builders can be meaningful for them. So if they are building or they are planning to build with the stablecoins, the Algorand integration is live on Braille. You can take advantage of the instant finality, the security, and the scalability. And I don't know if you have any final comments or thoughts. If I'm a builder and I try to reinvent the wheel, why should I use Braille for my stablecoin project in this case?
Yeah, I would just say we have really accessible products that works all the way down to like individual developers. You can literally start like at $10 a month or even in Sandbox for free. And so if you're building anything on stables, like whether it's USDC, USDT, or your own stables, you could literally go to the website, start playing around, and everything's completely accessible to you. And it's all public and Braille.xyz.
Awesome. Braille, thank you so much. Thanks everyone for joining us. And I hope that you enjoy the rest of the Multichain day.
Awesome. Thanks.